Hello and welcome to a new episode of Live Your Impressivity show. I'm Alex Badita, I'm your host, and I'm really happy to speak to you about gratitude journaling. Today we are bringing the topic of gratitude because when it comes to journaling, if you really are just trying it out for the first time, gratitude is the first thing that you want to look at. Having a practice of gratitude in your journal really changes your mood and it brings up your well-being. There are studies, there is science, and there are so many more benefits to gratitude journaling. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you a lot of these techniques and practices so that by the end of this episode, you are able to start your first gratitude journal. Are you ready? Prepare your pen and paper and take notes because this is going to be really juicy. Hello, and welcome again to Live Your Impressivity show. Today, I am going to share with you about gratitude and why it's important to keep a gratitude journal. It is said that it takes 21 days for a new habit to be formed. So I'm going to start by just saying this. Try it out. There's literally nothing to lose when you just give it a try. And gratitude just has to start very simple. You don't have to do something complicated. You don't have to go ahead to create something very, very complicated in your practice. It's really just being continuously grateful for your achievements and to find that motivation to keep a gratitude journal. You can choose to write in your gratitude journal every evening and maybe thank the universe for at least 3 things that have happened during the day. Or you can practice gratitude in the morning. And at first you don't even have to do it daily if you don't feel that it will benefit you, but I do feel that it's going to be a lot more effective when you actually create some consistency around it. However, if it feels like you're not enjoying writing in your gratitude journal, start with writing weekly and make a list at the end of the week about what really brought you gratitude in your heart from the entire week. Okay, so maybe you start with writing for 2, 3, or 5 minutes every day for 21 days. See what happens. Notice what changes. In some cases, you might even find yourself running back to your notebook and pen to write down your thank yous if you're feeling gratitude for something that has just happened. I definitely remember when I first heard about gratitude and it really didn't feel like a good idea, especially because at that point I was going through depression and a series of panic attacks, and it was really difficult to focus on seeing the positive side. And I get it. If you are going through a rough time and you're feeling challenged, then maybe just focus on something very real for you. Focus on being realistic. Gratitude doesn't have to mean that you are forcing yourself to believe something that you're not. I really think that you want to be realistic, you want to be real with yourself and with your feelings. There's nothing wrong with feeling down and feeling challenged. There is just pure honesty in admitting that. And then day by day, just write that down. And if at some point you feel that you want to write about being grateful for simply waking up or breathing or even doing the most simple mundane tasks, then go ahead and write those down. We are all different, and especially when it comes to navigating anxiety and mental health challenges, we all have different ways in coping. So don't try to follow a recipe. Instead, focus on your feelings and write those down. Gratitude in those moments can simply be, I am grateful. Maybe don't even try to think about what you're grateful about, but focus on the feeling of gratitude. maybe just say those words and write them down. I am grateful. And see what happens. Try it. There's also something else that you can do which can help you get closer to gratitude. When you're angry, you might want to pour that anger into writing because you realize that it's much healthier to do that than to punch walls or smash furniture. One way I suggest you start writing, if you are more on the side of this is not for me, is by simply putting down 3 things that you are grateful for that can be really about the bigger picture. It's the first step to stop seeing the world in a negative way and maybe getting an idea of the positive things that you're taking for granted. You might look at the bigger things like the sun coming out on a beautiful day or the birds flying from your window, or it might feel easier to notice the small things like the taste of the coffee in the morning or your delicious dinner with your partner. Sometimes it can be easier to start with a weekly gratitude list rather than doing it every day. However, once you understand the purpose of this exercise, you will start noticing all the small things that you could be grateful for, and then you might be more inclined to do it on a daily basis. Instead of focusing on the bad vibes, switch your thoughts to focusing on the good surrounding you. It's important to make it part of your life to pay attention to the things you really have instead of the things that you don't have. You see, we're all made of energy, and the universe can read this energy, and the signals that we send in the universe through our vibration is whether lack or abundance. So you can continue to focus on the things that you don't have, and this way continuing the cycle of scarcity, or you can focus on the abundance vibes. You can focus on the things that you already have and be grateful for them. And even when you want to transform your life and make a change and really change your circumstances, you want to start from a gratitude place, because if you're sending out signals of ungratefulness, then the universe will just push back and say, why would I give more to this person who doesn't appreciate what they already have? It means that even if I give them more, then they will still want more and not appreciate it. So instead, make sure that you come from a different perspective. If you find it difficult to connect to a state of gratitude, maybe you can think about the transformation and the difference that you want to bring in the world. And you can start by journaling about your mission and your legacy. You can use this journaling prompt as a start. How do I want to be remembered? Start with journaling about the impression that you want to leave to your kids, your grandkids, your friends, all the people that you come across during your life. Nobody wants to be invisible, and especially if it comes from a place of helping and being kind to others, in a sense that you are leaving a mark on other people's lives. We all want to make a difference in this world. We all want to feel that our story on this earth meant something. We want to leave our footprints for the humanity, and we want to lead by example. And if our intentions are pure, then we will be able to do that from a place of kindness and positive energy, and we can be able to lead with gratitude. If instead we're looking for personal gain and we're looking for chasing these legacies from the perspective of fame and success and money, then it might be more difficult, because yes, in these cases, it might trigger us to find something that we're grateful for. Instead, we will always focus on the next shiny object, the next promotion, the next award that we can get, or the next sum of money that we can acquire in our bank account. So I'm not saying that success and fame are bad, or that they're not a good place to come from. However, when you focus on not taking them for granted and focus on the gratitude of making step by step your progress towards getting all of these things in your life, then your journey will be different. It's really not about taking pride in the difference that we're making in the world or expecting anything in return. It can be simply about being the heroes of our own families or other people's lives or our communities. And that can be enough to feed our soul with gratitude. It can come from a place of pure kindness and peace with ourselves first. And this means making an impression, being remembered, leaving a legacy, and really focusing on that positive gratitude. Now, since we're talking about gratitude and keeping a journal for gratitude, I also want to mention the science of gratitude. You know that I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to the neuroscience of writing and journaling, and I've mentioned it in previous episodes. And this is something that I mention a lot in my work and in my content and also in the programs that I do with my clients, because I find that sometimes just looking at the benefits that we see from the perspective of our mental health and the changes that are brought in our well-being may not be enough. And some people need hard evidence and studies. So I'm here to deliver those as well. Because the truth is that gratitude involves noticing the goodness in the world. And there are studies that show how gratitude can literally make a difference. Gratitude, it's not about being blind to the tough stuff or turning a blind eye to the mess that is surrounding us. It's really just about making sure that in the midst of the things that serve up a good dose of negative feelings, like this current context of challenging times, we manage to not lose sight of the good. And there are a few ways in which we can turn up the volume on gratitude, because it will literally make a huge difference. And journaling about these kind of practices and activities will really help us to keep that emotional bank account filled with gratitude. It's what will make a difference in our day-to-day well-being and in the way that we show up in other people's lives and stories. So gratitude is an acknowledgement that something meaningful has been done for us. It's an open-hearted, deliberate recognition of the generosity of the giver. Now, we can either be the giver or the receiver. And in many cases, we want to be also grateful for the times when we are the giver. Because when we give, we are not looking for recognition. We are giving because it makes us feel good. And we are giving something to someone because we can do that. And knowing that we can do that and change something, and even just, change someone's day by simply opening their door or, helping them to carry a box from the grocery stores to their car. It's small things that we can do that can make a difference. And we're not doing them because we're expecting to take credit for them. We're doing them because it makes us feel good. So we want to reframe that and say that, I am grateful that I was able to support this person. I'm grateful that I noticed someone needed my help and I was able to offer my support. I'm grateful that I was able to make a difference and bring a smile on someone's face. So this is how we can reframe gratitude in a meaningful way for us. And when we are the giver, we can look at things from the perspective of really being able to offer that to someone. Of course, when we are on the receiving end, it makes it even more important to be grateful for what we are receiving. Whether it's something that happens, something that we receive from a stranger, something that someone dear to us does for us, something that synchronicity makes happen. It's really just about being grateful. And sometimes it's about being grateful for something that has nothing to do with our control, that it's out of our control. So this is when we're grateful for the sound of the river that we hear when we walk in the nature, or when we're grateful for the sun coming out in the morning. These things are out of control, but we can still be grateful for them because we are there to experience them. And actually the gratitude is because we are able to notice, to experience, and to take them in. So try to journal on that and see how that changes your mood. There's also a lot of studies that show that gratitude reinforces generous behavior. Because when there is an open display of gratitude in our relationships or even with strangers, both the giver and the receiver are more likely to repeat the giving because it really makes them feel good. Just what I was saying earlier, it's literally about doing something that makes you feel good. The effect of this is really the butterfly effect. It's something that can ripple out into the world, and when we're kind to someone, we can be assured that they will be in turn kind to someone else. So the effect of generosity is not an exchange. It's not doing something generous and then waiting for the receiver to return that favor to us. It's really about being grateful and paying it forward. Having a gratitude journal can also increase our feelings of security and the feeling of connection, because we can notice the good that comes from outside of ourselves. We can see the good in the world. We can see the good in the people around us instead of focusing on the negative. We are surrounded by so much negativity. We're surrounded by so much pain and suffering. And of course, we can easily spiral down and focus on those things. How can we find gratitude in something so messy and painful? But instead, we can focus on gratitude and find the smallest glimpse of light in the good parts of the world. We can find something that can cheer us up. We can find something that we can be grateful for in the most darkness of the world. There's also science that shows that when we feel good, when we have a positive feeling, we tend to feel good for a second. We tend to feel good for a moment and then return to our normal mood. So in the book The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky, there is this concept of baseline of happiness, and it basically says that we all have a baseline of happiness that is a mix of inheritance and genetics, but also how we are prone to educate that baseline of happiness. And no matter what happens, whether it's extreme joy, extreme surprise and enthusiasm, or very challenging times, in a specific time, we end up getting back to our baseline of happiness. It's the same with feeling good and positive. We feel good and then we return to our baseline. So gratitude has been shown with studies that it helps us to feel good for longer. It helps us to hang on to the positive for longer, to be able to celebrate the good in our lives and to somehow move on from the bad quicker, because we are able to really reinforce that positive feeling over and over and over. In terms of the neuroscience and how gratitude changes the brain, the parts of the brain that are activated when the brain feels gratitude, and especially when we start writing down in our gratitude journal, we activate the ventral and dorsal medial prefrontal cortex. And these areas are involved in, feeling like we are receiving a reward. This is the feeling of interpersonal bonding, connection, morality, and even positive social interactions, and the ability to understand with empathy the people around us. So when we write it down, it's important that we really support our body to connect with the feeling of gratitude. So not just writing down in your journal words, not just writing something that you read in a book or heard on a podcast, just really write about what brings you gratitude in that moment. Pay attention and connect to that feeling of gratitude. It's important that you're really present, and it only takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Honestly, you don't have to force yourself to take a lot of time. Of course, the longer you do that for, the longer your feeling of gratitude and generosity will be prolonged. But you don't have to worry about taking a lot of time in your schedule to do that. It literally takes only 2 minutes to write in your gratitude journal, but really being present, feeling that gratitude and supporting your brain to activate those areas in your brain that will help you feel reward, satisfaction, connection. Scientists also say that gratitude has the capacity to increase important neurochemicals. So, for instance, when we are reframing our negative thoughts into positive thoughts, there is a beautiful cascade of feel-good chemicals that pop up in our brain, such as dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and all of these chemicals contribute to the feelings of closeness, connection, happiness, and all feels like this warm, fuzzy cloud of gratitude. I honestly was asked at some point about my definition of gratitude and how I could describe it or how I could visualize it. And the first thing that came to my mind was this fluffy, warm, fuzzy cloud of gratitude that just surrounds you and embraces you. This is how I see gratitude. And it can look as whatever makes you feel good and comfortable and cozy, because I think that gratitude is literally about making you feel cozy and warm. It's that feeling of closeness and connection that you feel with yourself, with your higher self, with the universe, and also with the people that you connect through these acts of kindness. Consistency is key, even in gratitude journaling, because just like with anything else and any type of writing, any type of journaling, it takes time to see the results. So if you are going to write in your journal at the end of this podcast, or you pause right now and you write 3 things that you're grateful for in your journal, yes, it will give you a spike in your well-being. It will make you feel good for a moment, but then you will return to your baseline. So it's really about consistency and practice and finding the discipline to write in your journal your gratitude list on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis. But it's really just finding that moment of connection and presence and feeling the gratitude in your body, embodying that gratitude. It's not just about writing down words, as I was saying. It's not just about putting down 3 things that you heard might be a good idea to be grateful about. No, because then it's not yours. It's not your feeling. So just find what really triggers that gratitude in yourself. We already know that the brain changes with experience. So the more that we practice gratitude, the more the brain will learn to turn into positive every single negative part that it sees, to tune into the positive side of the things and to see the light in the darkest darkness. And it's important that, we acknowledge the darkness as well, because there wouldn't be any light if there wasn't any darkness. So this is what I was sharing at the beginning of this episode, that in moments of challenging times and in moments of feeling triggered and feeling anxious, don't try to force yourself to feel grateful. Just feel whatever you're feeling and then reflect on what it would mean for me to say that I'm grateful right now, and just write in your journal and be honest. Journaling is literally just about being honest and being authentic. But the more you practice gratitude journaling in advance, then when you get to a period of time when you're feeling anxious and challenged, you will be more inclined to see the positive faster. You will be able to return to positivity faster because you will already have your brain trained to focus on the positive, to focus on gratitude instead of focusing on the negative. So this is why consistency and discipline and regular practice comes from. There was a study by Rick Hansen who did a lot of work in the area of gratitude and neuropsychology and neuroscience, and he found that focusing on an experience that brings us gratitude for 20 seconds is long enough to create positive structural changes in the brain. Gratitude gives space for the positive experience to expand, and we relive it, we re-experience it, and we kind of keep that feeling for longer. When you write in your journal, spend 20 seconds for each thing that you write down. And as I said, if you write 3 things in your journal and then you focus 20 seconds for each of them, honestly, it's less than 2 minutes, because you want to embody. After writing it down, you really want to look at that word and embody it and reflect on it for 20 seconds. The good news is that the more gratitude we feel, the more it will reinforce itself. So give yourself permission to start a gratitude journal and simply allocate 2 minutes in the morning and write in your journal what you're grateful for. Or if it's easier, just do it in the evening and write, I am grateful for, and then go ahead and list a few things that you're grateful for in that moment. Give yourself 20 seconds to read that list and look at each thing on your list. And then really close your eyes and feel gratitude. Focus on that gratitude feeling on a regular basis. Try this practice for the next 21 days and see what changes, see what transforms in you, and you can then decide whether you want to keep it or not. But I promise you, there are no side effects to gratitude. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really excited that today I shared with you my take on gratitude and why it's important to start a gratitude journal right away. I'm Alex Badica, I'm your host, and I'm excited that we are here for another episode of Live Your Impressivity show. It has been a pleasure, as always, and if you feel that this episode might help someone that you know, please share it with them. If there's something that you found useful, don't hesitate to leave a review, and also let us know if there are other topics on journaling that you would like to learn more about. Until next time, stay impressive and happy journaling!